Hey mamas, welcome to Breastfeeding Relief with Bethany. We share incredible stories, tips, and breastfeeding ideas to help on your journey. I'm your host, Bethany Laverne, a lactation consultant and speech therapist who helps mamas with breastfeeding. Not all breastfeeding stories are the same, and we dive into those topics. Welcome back to Breastfeeding Relief with Bethany. It's so good to have you today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We've been trying to do this for a while, so I'm so excited to finally have you on my podcast. So why don't you go ahead and tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how many kiddos you have?
Yeah, so my name is Andria Singletary. I'm a wife. I'm a mama of two. I have a 1-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son. A little bit about me. I have two sides to my business. So podcast production, where I support mom business owners with simplifying their lead generation through podcasting. And then I'm now adding in a new aspect of my business, which is life and business coaching for mom business owners.
That is so awesome. And we have a lot of mamas on here. So go ahead and hit her up if you're going to start a new business journey. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So why don't you go ahead and tell us about your breastfeeding journeys?
Yeah, so like I said, I have two kiddos. So I had my son April 2020, so the height of the pandemic. And if you had little ones during that time, you know how crazy it was in the hospital. So it's only one support person, everyone's wearing masks and everything. And so just starting things out that way, I think kind of just set the entire tone of that breastfeeding journey. So I went in with the idea that I was going to do a vaginal birth, naturally, all of that. But they decided that I needed to be induced. And so the whole induction process, it ended up resulting in a C-section. And the C-section was very traumatic. And so when he came out, I just didn't feel stable enough to hold him. So we didn't do that immediate skin to skin. I want to say it was at least a couple of hours before I actually latched him on. And I just could not get a good latch. I was still coming down off of like all the anesthesia and all of that. And so I was not fully there. And so it just kind of set the tone. And I didn't know, no one told me that I was supposed to be, nursing him every couple of hours or so. Like, I just thought, like, oh, he'll cry and let me know when he's hungry. So I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing. A lactation consultant did eventually come over and kind of showed me how to latch him on. And she did mention, she's like, I believe he has a lip and tongue tie. And she's like, you really want to get that looked at, just to make sure. And if it is, get it corrected. But again, that was kind of it. Not that I needed to go to a pediatric dentist for that or anything like that. And so finally, we were released to go home and we just continue to have struggles with breastfeeding. So I ended up going to see another lactation consultant, and it was a very discouraging experience. She basically said I was starving him and was just very negative and really pushed formula on me. Again, not much mention of like a lip or tongue tie. So I started doing my own research, found out that I was supposed to see a pediatric dentist, found a local one, ended up getting his lip and tongue tie corrected. But probably by this point, he was maybe 6 weeks or so. But I did get it corrected and he did end up having a better latch. But because the supply and demand, it like he wasn't nursing enough or completely emptying my breast, it just made it hard to try to get my supply back up to fully meet his needs. So I did keep like putting him to the breast, but I did supplement with formula and everything. And so it was just a very hard and discouraging journey. And so by the time he was 9 months, I think I got like a UTI or something, and they put me on antibiotics, and they're like, oh, well, you'll have to stop breastfeeding for 7 days or something like that. And so I was like, you know what, let's just go ahead, fully wean him and let him be completely on formula. And so that's kind of how that one went. Definitely not what I had imagined. Then a couple of years later, had my daughter, and this time it was a completely different experience. Even just the birth experience, it started out as a home birth. She decided that she did not want to tuck her head to fully come out, had made it 8 centimeters dilated, water broke and everything. She was not tucking her. She was trying to come out face first. And so I had to be transferred to the hospital because it's like, okay, you've been at this for over a day now. Like, you need to go to the hospital. So ended up getting another C-section, but this time it was completely different. After like she came out, I felt a lot better. I felt more in control. So I held her. We did skin to skin, immediately latched her on. She had an amazing latch, and we made it 15 months breastfeeding. I had to wean her because she started having a lot of teeth come in, and I was like, you know what, I can't keep having you bite me. So but it was a much better experience. My supply was great. I felt more confident going into this. I knew exactly what to do, even from the beginning, like how often I should be latching her on and everything. And so yeah, two completely different experiences.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing. I feel like there's so much I want to break down. So, with your son, the thing that makes me so sad is that the nurses should all understand breastfeeding on a labor and delivery floor, and no one's like, hey, by the way, did you know? Like, hey, when's the last time we fed him? Like, yes, they're going to be very sleepy in that first day and they aren't really going to cry out for you, but you still need to be offering it every few hours. And I also feel like it's so hard because all the family, now not during the pandemic, but all the family wants to rush in and be like, let's hold the baby. And you're like, hold on, well, I also need to breastfeed. Like my father-in-law's in the room and I'm like, can you leave? Like try and figure this out and need to pull my boob out. So get out of the room, please. Right. So you sometimes just have to be that advocate for yourself. And, even when they were discharging me, my father-in-law was in the room. And so the nurse got really close and she was like, no, you're going to have some bleeding. Right. And I'm like, oh, could he please get out of the room? Right. Because you're just like, I don't want to talk about my vagina and the stitches that are down there. Right. So it's okay to say, everyone, please leave. I would like to just talk to the nurse right now. So, but as lactation consultants, we are not allowed to diagnose a lip and tongue tie. We're just allowed to say, I think your baby may have a lip and a tongue tie. That's what mine said to me. But the part that we're missing, again, why I have this podcast, is we are not telling you the next steps, not just saying it and then saying best of luck to you. Right? We need to set you up with that support. So please come find me on my Instagram or on my website, and I set you up for success. So mamas, right now, you can come download my freebie. It's a 6 episodes private podcast. You can also see who should be on your team for a lip and tongue tie team. Also, you're supposed to be stretching your baby's lip and tongue tie every day. And so I have a tracker. And also, mamas, if you're very unsure if your baby has a lip and tongue tie, you just came across this, I have a checklist for the mamas and the babies on what you're experiencing. And if you're checking off anywhere from 3 to 4 of these, more than likely your baby has a tongue tie. Please go see a pediatric dentist. So I want to set you up for success to make sure that you continue on your breastfeeding journey. And like you said, it had already been 6 weeks. And, then I feel like we're just setting you up for failure because no one had told you that and you've been struggling along for 6 weeks. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with supplementing with formula. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Not all moms can produce enough breast milk. And so it's okay to do formula. Or even I have some moms that at night, they're so tired that instead the partner, their husband, gives the baby a bottle at nighttime to help them sleep a little bit longer and give them formula because you just don't want to pump. And that's completely fine. Don't feel like you have to do these things. And formula is there to help you out for 1 or 2 feeds if you want. So thank you for bringing that up. But I just love that your second journey was so much better because you knew what to expect and to advocate for yourself and what was going on. So I love that.
Yeah.
So with our mamas, what is one thing you wish you would have known about breastfeeding?
Um, One thing I wish I would have known is that it is something that you have to learn. I feel like we're kind of told that it's this innate thing and you have your baby and you know what to do. And it's like, no, you don't. And so I wish that I would have went into this knowing that, like, yeah, I took the classes, I did a lot of different things, but it's one thing to read about it or take a class, and it's another thing to actually physically do it. And so, because that is like so ingrained in us that it's something we should just know by nature, if we're not doing it right or if it's not going the way we expect, then we're thinking we're doing something wrong when in reality it's just you and baby have to learn each other. It's something that with practice, it does get easier. I mean, think about with my daughter, it was eventually to the point I just whip it out, latch her on, and I can go on about my day. Like it wasn't a big deal, but
Mhm.
it took time to get to that point.
Mhm.
So I think that would be my thing that I want you to know is like, no, it's not this skill that we're born knowing how to do. It's something that with practice and you and baby learning each other, you'll get it.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Because I feel like when you watch Instagram,
Mhm.
that you're like, oh, it looks so easy. And you're right. It does look easy to the mama on her second or third kid and they're 10 months in. You're right. It is easy, right? But day 1, day 5, or you're freaking out on day 3. My milk still hasn't come in. It's
Mhm.
not going to come in. Well, it takes anywhere from 2 to 5 days for your milk to drop and come in and not just have colostrum. So mamas, give yourself time and please give yourself plenty of grace. And each nursing session's a new nursing session. And so maybe try a different position, try to latch them differently. And if you feel like the latch is bad, I always say take your pinky finger, put it in their mouth, unlatch them, and then relatch them back on. So don't just sit there in pain. Try to see if you can get a different latch position.
Yeah.
What was your favorite breastfeeding product?
The My Breast Friend pillow. That thing was such a game changer. Especially just hooking it on. And my daughter, she was a pretty big baby. She was born almost 8 pounds. And so we started our breastfeeding journey and she just got bigger and bigger. So having that pillow to help hold her up was nice. But I also love that it had the little pockets where I could have my water cup and snacks and everything. But like I said, like I work from home, and so being able to just latch her on and then I can still be working on my laptop, it was just a nice little setup. Like I swear by that pillow. I think like all of my friends who've had kids after me, that was like the gift I got them for their baby shower.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you just gave a huge pro tip to all of our pregnant moms. Make sure you always have water and a snack because you will get trapped. And then because it's also hard when they fall asleep on you, go ahead and hold them because they're only little ones. I'm not saying every time, but maybe once a day, hold them and let them sleep on you. And then you're like, oh, shoot, I'm real hungry right now, or I could really use the water, right? So always make sure you use the bathroom and then have a drink and a snack before you sit down. That's a huge pro tip right there.
Yeah, especially breastfeeding, you get thirsty and hungry like crazy.
So much. I always say I had more with my first one than my second one, but I had a little caddy that had a whole bunch of snacks in it, like nuts and
Mhm.
granola bars and all that kind of stuff. Now with my second one, I had a toddler, and so he would steal the snacks. So I couldn't just have snacks sitting out because I'd be like, "Where'd you get that granola bar? Come back here. That's not for you. That's mama's." So, well, thank you so much for coming on today. This has been so lovely. Why don't you let mamas know how they can connect with you and work with you?
Yeah. So if you want to connect with me, I am on Instagram at Mama Turned Mompreneur. My website is Mama Turned Mompreneur. And then I have my own podcast called Mama Turned Mompreneur, and it's available on all of the podcast players.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening in. If you loved this episode, it would mean so much if you would share it with another mama or post on social media and tag me. I want to personally thank you for wanting to help other mamas. You got this. I'm rooting for your breastfeeding journey.